Wala akong ma-imagine na inspection ng barko na hindi binoard ang barko.
This is what we really want to forward to national headquarters to conduct administrative investigations pertaining to lapses.
So doon nagkaroon ng kapapayaan. Yun ang sinasabi ko kanina. Kung hindi lang sana naging papaya ang mga tao ninyo, hindi napayagan maglayag yun dahil kulang sa dokumento, hindi sana tayo nag-uusap lahat dito ngayon.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Ed Lingao.
And I'm Sean Yao. The big story tonight.
It was revealed in today's Senate hearing that the oil tanker that sank off the coast of Oriental Mindoro had no permit, but was still able to set sail multiple times before sinking and causing an oil spill earlier this month.
The local government of Mindoro is now blaming the Philippine Coast Guard and Marina for being lax with their inspections. Mayan Los Baños with the big story.
Masakit sa akin bilang gobernador. Kami ang apektado ng lahat ng ito.
Oriental Mindoro Governor Humerlito Dolor was emotional as he faced senators on Tuesday. He's blaming the Philippine Coast Guard and the Maritime Industry Authority or Marina for allowing the MT Princess Empress to sail without a permit to operate. Senators learned that the oil tanker did not have an amended Certificate of Public Convenience or CPC. A CPC is issued by the Marina to a domestic water transport service provider to operate a vessel for commercial or public use. The PCG admits that there were lapses in the inspection made by their personnel and says it is considering possible administrative and legal action against these inspectors.
So dapat yung mga personnel nyo sa pier, bago maglayag yung barko, inaakyat, sumasampa, tinitingnan mga papeles, kung ano-ano pa mga requirement to make sure na pwede ito, authorize ito na maglayag. Di po ba? Kasi if you did that, wala sanang oil spill.
Wala akong ma-imagine na inspection ng barko na hindi binoard ang barko.
And this is what we really want to forward to national headquarters to conduct administrative investigations pertaining to lapses of our personnel.
Senators also got to hear the side of RDC Real Marine Services, the owner of the sunken MT Princess Empress. RDC applied for amended CPC last November 2022, but until now they have yet to receive the document. As it turns out, the MT Princess Empress is a new vessel, and under Marina rules, a company should apply for an amendment to their CPC for every new vessel acquired. RDC admits that the tanker was able to sail 9 times while waiting for the amended CPC.
Which we are going to hear pa sana may hearing. May kulang na mga documents. So, i-hear pa natin yan. So, hindi sila na-issuehan kaagad.
In terms of compensating those affected by the oil spill, the company says it's already processing claims. RDC is covered with $1 billion protection and indemnity insurance. However, senators doubt if RDC can actually claim this insurance since it has incomplete documents.
Sabi nila makaka-claim daw sila sa insurance company. Ako, galing ako sa business eh. Alam mo, yung insurance company, maghahanap yan ng basis para hindi sila magbayad.
Sa insurance po kasi they don't ask for the I think they ask for the CPC, but the CPC, meron po kaming valid CPC.
Apart from monetary compensation, LGUs and Oriental Mindoro are demanding other forms of assistance.
Response cleanup. There, they're helping us together with Harbor Star and Malayan Toways. Pero as far as to direct assistance to our kababayans, yun po ang wala. Ang pagkain is basic. We don't have to ask you to give food. We don't have to ask you. Human compensation is another matter. Nalulungkot ako sa narinig ko kanina kay Senator Villar na there is a possibility that us being not given the compensation eventually. That hurts me most.
RDC has vowed to reach out directly to the local government of Oriental Mindoro over assistance and oil spill response. Reporting for News 5, Mayan Los Baños, we are One News.
And to give us an update on the oil spill, we have Mon Gualvez reporting live from Puerto Galera in Oriental Mindoro. Mon, magandang gabi. And kamusta kayo dyan?
Yes, Bok, magandang gabi. At kasalukuyan, actually, tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung ginagawang mga clean-up drive, no? Mula nang lumubog itong MT Princess Empress, almost 2 weeks na. Hanggang ngayon, talagang ginagawa pa rin yung paglilinis sa mga shoreline na talaga inabot na ng tumagas na langis, Bok.
Alright, Mon, kasama mo kanina yung PNP Southern Luzon Command sa aerial inspection nila. Ano ang nakita mo, kahit not in technical terms?
Sean, malawak pa rin yung sakop ng langis na tumagas mula sa lumubog na tanker. At ang problema dito, posibleng mas lumawak pa yan dahil pinaniniwalaan na hindi pa raw talaga totally naaalis or lumulutang yung mga industrial fuel, kabuuan nito na kasamang lumubog sa tanker. And this is what bothers most, yung APC or yung Area Police Command ng Southern Luzon. That's why they did itong aerial inspection, because they want to know how massive pa yung oil na nasa karagatan. And if I'm going to describe it, para sa mga mahabang linya na makinang sa ibabaw ng dagat, and these are the oil na nanggagaling nga mula doon sa lumubog na tanker. The problem is, there is a possibility na maaaring mapunta sa ibang direksyon itong mga naturang langis dahil sa possibility naman ng pagbabago ng wind direction. So from southern part of Oriental Mindoro, there's a possibility na mag-shift into northern part of Oriental Mindoro. At the same time, pati na rin yung Batangas parts or coastal areas of Batangas. Kaya ito yung pinaka-pinangangambahan naman ng mga maapektuhan if ever na magbago yung direksyon ng hangin, dahil yung lawak na binabanggit ko kanina ng langis, ito yung posibleng umabot sa kanilang shoreline kung sakaling hindi maagapan.
Pero noon, mayroon bang updated estimate doon sa gaano katagal para ma-clean up itong lugar?
Ang target pa rin nila, Bok, is hindi lalagpas ng 4 months, no? Kasi nga yun yung binigay na parang at least ultimatum ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos with regard to cleaning this oil spill na nangyari. At ang nakikita natin dito sa ginagawa ng mga efforts ng Philippine Coast Guard together with the contractors na hinire ng may-ari nitong lumubog na tanker, they're doubling their efforts. In fairness to what they are doing right now, no, together with the people in the area for the Cash for Work program. At ang ginagawa naman nila ngayon, according to the contractors, is inaasahan na sa mga darating na araw, they will be using some equipment like mga barge na pupunta sa mga areas para gumamit ng mga high-powered na mga, kumbaga, yung magpa-flash doon sa mga pakawan, at the same time sa mga rocks na talaga namang nanikit yung langis. Isa sa mga binabantayan natin din dito is yung pagdating ng ROV or yung remotely operated vehicle na siyang mangunguna para masilip at makita if what is the situation doon sa ilalim ng dagat kung saan lumubog yung tanker, so that malalaman nila at magagawa nila yung dapat gawin in terms of siphoning it or masipsip yung mga langis na nasa ilalim pa nga ng dagat. Ang initial info was galing sa China yung manggagaling na ROV, pero hindi na daw ito matutuloy. So, ang sunod na tinarget naman nila is galing sa Singapore, pero magiging matagal pa rin daw. It will take them 20 days bago makarating sa Pilipinas. Kaya naman ang recent pronouncement ng contractor is that they will be seeking help from the Japan, no, na manggagaling doon yung ROV. Unfortunately, they don't have this capacity na magtapal doon sa mga tumagas na langis. So, ang kayang gawin lang doon ito is makita yung pinaka-sitwasyon sa ilalim ng dagat doon sa lumubog na tanker. It will take them around 5 days bago makarating dito sa Pilipinas.
Bon, atas na ako kasi yung isasabi mong 4 months, that's a conceptual estimate based on the president's ultimatum. Do they have any realistic estimates?
They're saying that it may take around 1 year, Bok, no? Actually, ang sinasabi talaga na initially, hindi daw kakayanin ito na isang buwan when they were asked, no, if it's possible na magawa ito na isang buwan. Kasi nga, the problem is, nandun pa rin yung mismong source nung tumatagas na langis, the motor tanker that was, nandun pa rin siya sa ilalim ng dagat at nagre-release pa rin siya ng langis, no, na malaking epekto na umaabot na nga sa shoreline yung mga oil na inilalabas ito, na bukod sa diesel oil, kasama na nga rin dyan yung pinangangamba na nasa 800,000 na industrial fuel. Pero in terms of talagang totally cleaning it, ang sinasabi kasi nila dito, Bok, talagang posibleng aabutin ito ng mga taon, no? Pero they are targeting right now at least maalis yung mismong karga nitong lumubog na tanker before 4 months.
Alright, so Mon, just to confirm, no, sinabi mo na, sure na ba yung mga otoridad na continuously na tumatagas pa rin yung oil? Are they able to ascertain that without the ROV? And also, kamusta dyan sa Puerto Galera? Apektado ba ang turismo?
In terms of how sure they are dun sa mga tumatagas na langis, according sa Philippine Coast Guard, nakikita kasi nila na may lumalabas or sumusulpot dun sa pinaniniwalaang area kung saan lumubog yung MT Princess Empress. That's why they are saying na talaga namang continuously nagre-release pa rin ito ng oil mula sa ilalim ng dagat. And in terms naman dito sa Puerto Galera, isa nga ito sa lugar na binabantayan ng mga otoridad dahil there's a possibility na umabot dito yung langis if ever magbago yung direction ng wind. That's why the local government of Puerto Galera is doubling their efforts as well. They are doing some kind of water testing para ma-assure yung mga tourists na pupunta dito that the water is safe. At the same time, yung mga fishes and other mga pagkaing dagat na maaaring makuha sa karagatang sakop ng Puerto Galera are also safe. Yan yung mga isa sa mga ginagawa nila. Pangalawa, they're also doing this kind of improvised oil spill boom made up of coconut husks. They grind it actually and then they put it on a net. Tapos ito yung ikakalat nila ilalagay nila sa mga karagatan para hindi umabot yung langis sa mismong Pampang because they are bothered and they are actually conscious dun sa mga white beaches at saka yung diving sites na talaga namang binibisita, talagang dinadayo ng mga turista dito sa Puerto Galera. And they are saying na kahit gaano man sila kahanda, pag umabot na daw dito yung langis, malaking problema daw ito sa kanila dahil umaabot na sa mahigit 20,000 turista ang dumarating at pumupunta sa kanilang lugar kada buwan since January.
Mon, pahabol na lang kasi binagit mo kaninang ROV na expected dumating in 5 days. Kung tama, if I got you right, that's only good for an ocular of the sunken boat. It's not good for suctioning the oil yet. Do we have any timetable for the actual suction?
Yes, Bok, tama. Linawin natin itong ROV na binabanggit natin this time. Ang initially kasi, para ma-idea lang po yung mga nanonood sa atin ngayon, the ideal ROV na in-expect nila was yung kayang magtapal ng mga butas, or kung ano makikitang parts na tumatagas nga yung langis from below the sea, dun sa lumubog na tanker. Unfortunately, itong ROV na darating sa bansa from Japan, ang kaya lang nito is makita yung situation sa ilalim ng dagat. And then from there, talaga namang gagawa na doon ang paraan ng may-ari ng company at gumawa ng plano how to siphon the fuel below the sea. Ang target date, ang sinasabi nila dito talagang by March 15 to 20 ang estimate nila dito. Let me just check my records dito, Bok, at saka Sean, kung anong araw yung binabanggit ng contractor. They are saying that itong ROV from Japan na ina-expect nila is expected to arrive in the country by hindi ko lang siya makita pero 5 days yung binibigyan nilang estimate dito sa pagdating ng ROV from Japan. And I'll get back na lang siguro with regard to the exact dates na bininggat nila with regard to this one.
Okay, maraming salamat. Mon Gualvez reporting live from Puerto Galera.
In other news, a suspect that was linked alongside Congressman Arnolfo Teves in a series of killings in Negros Oriental back in 2019 has spoken up about the case. Mobile journalist Bel Gregorio with the report.
Lies and only for revenge. That's the defense of Jasper Tanasan, also known as Bobong Tanasan. Following the murder case filed against him, Congressman Arnie Teves and 2 others related to the killings in Negros Oriental in 2019. In an exclusive interview with News 5, Tanasan questioned how can he be part of the crime if he was already in jail during that time.
Hindi ko alam na may kaso ako. Transparent ako sa lugar namin sa Hinubaan, Negros Occidental. Hindi ako nagtatago, naghahanap ako ng kasama, hanap buhay kasama pamilya ko. Nagtrabaho ako doon sa LGU, Hinubaan.
Tanasan was imprisoned in 2012 after being caught with illegal firearms and explosives in his house. He was acquitted in December 2019, 9 months after the killing of former NBI agent and former Negros Oriental board member Miguel Dungog and 2 others. Dungog was killed after being shot by riding in tandem gunmen in Dumaguete City. during the peak of his campaign for a seat in the Sangguniang Panlalawigan under the party of Governor Roel Degamo. Before being imprisoned, Tanasan was a close-in security of Congressman Teves, who was pointed out by witnesses as the mastermind of the crime. Tanasan insisted that the witness who is now testifying against him and Teves in the murder of Dungog was his enemy in prison. However, he did not reveal the identity of the said person.
Itong lahat is manufactured evidence. Hindi ito totoo. Kasi kung ako ay nakagawa ng kasalanan sa 2019, hindi na nila ako makikita dyan sa hinubaan.
Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has granted the plea of Justice Secretary Boying Remulla for the transfer of the cases filed in the killings of Negros Oriental Governor Roel Degamo and 8 other persons to the Manila Regional Trial Court. Criminal complaints for illegal possession of firearms and explosives, meanwhile, were filed against 6 individuals who were arrested when authorities raided properties owned by the lawmaker and his family last Friday. The PNP-CIDG said Teves' secretary and 3 other people face complaints for violation of the Comprehensive Firearms and Ammunition Regulation Act. 2 of those arrested allegedly violated both RA 10591 and RA 9516, or the law on illegal possession of explosives. Teves and his 2 sons were not around during the implementation of the search warrant in their house. Teves is still in the United States as his authority to travel to the country was only valid from February 28 to March 9. House Speaker Martin Romualdez revealed that Teves has gotten in touch with him and expressed fears for his and his family's safety, the reason why he refuses to return home at this time. Romualdez assured Teves of his safety while also reiterating his advice that the lawmaker needs to come back.
Former policeman Jeffrey Perez has been found guilty of killing 2 teenagers during the Duterte administration's war on drugs. Navotas Regional Trial Court Branch 287 sentenced Perez to reclusión perpetua or up to 40 years in prison for the 2017 killing of teenagers Carl Angelo Arnaiz and Reynaldo de Guzman. Perez is also ordered to pay the families of Arnaiz and de Guzman damages. In November last year, a Caloocan court also found Perez guilty of 2 separate counts of torturing Arnaiz and de Guzman and of planting plastic sachets of marijuana, shabu, and a revolver to make it appear that Arnaiz resisted arrest. Police claimed that Arnaiz, a 19-year-old ex-UP student, robbed a taxi driver and was killed in a shootout. But a witness said he saw Arnaiz alight from a police vehicle in handcuffs, knelt in front of Perez, raised his hands, and pleaded "Susuko na ako" before Perez shot him 3 times. Perez's conviction is only the second known murder conviction under the drug war and the 3rd conviction if his prior conviction for torture and planting of evidence is included. Under his administration, former President Rodrigo Duterte promised to protect policemen and soldiers at the forefront of his bloody war on drugs, despite the mounting international criticism. Duterte even said that he was ready to go to prison in place of law enforcers who would be charged and convicted.
Coming right up, suspended Bureau Chief or Bureau of Corrections Chief Gerald Bantag has been formally charged for the murder of radio broadcaster Percy Lapid and middleman June Villamor. That and more when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News. watching the big story here on One News. The collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank in the United States is making headlines as it continues to shake the global financial market. Here's what we know. The Silicon Valley Bank, or SVB, is a startup-focused lender that mainly catered to tech companies in the U.S. The bank saw a large surge in deposits from tech firms during the pandemic, and much of these funds were invested by SVB in U.S. government bonds. While bond investments are typically among the safest, SVB finds itself in trouble as the Federal Reserve started raising interest rates to curb soaring inflation. With interest rates climbing, the value of the bonds started to fall. By this time, weaker economic conditions also started to take its toll on tech companies, prompting them to withdraw their funds from SVB. To obtain more cash, the bank sold its bonds at a big loss, raising concerns on its financial health. With this, more companies withdrew funds from SVB, causing its collapse late last week and prompting regulators to seize its assets. SVB has now become the largest bank to fail since the 2008 financial crisis. But just as the U.S. financial sector thought they've seen the worst, another bank, New York-based Signature, was also closed 2 days later in a bid to prevent the spreading crisis. Regulators did note, though, that all depositors of Signature Bank and SVB will be made whole. U.S. President Joe Biden said that no losses will be borne by the taxpayer and that his administration's rapid action should give Americans confidence that the U.S. banking system is safe. Despite the assurances, SVB's collapse continued to pound global financial stocks. Bank shares have declined broadly in Asia following a brutal sell-off on Wall Street. Bloomberg reports that the SVB crisis wiped out some $465 billion from global bank stocks over the last 2 days.
Will the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank affect the Philippines financial sector? Let's get the answers from One News' business editor, Regina Lay. She's joining us via Zoom. Reg, so what do you think? Should Filipinos be worried at all?
Not at the moment, as far as we know, Bok, because let me put it into context. The only impact, so all of this happened over the weekend, right? But so far, at the moment, the only impact that we're seeing is in the stock market, as Sean just reported. Just to recap, shares of Philippine banks today really came under pressure. Most of them ended in the red. The financials counter lost more than 2%. But again, that's the story across the region, right? In Asia, from Singapore, Hong Kong, South Korea, Japan, it's all the same. In fact, other countries had it worse. So other than that, to be quite honest, we're not expecting much of an impact, at least not directly. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The first is that it's Silicon Valley Bank. Although it's a major player in the tech and the startup industry in the U.S., it's not a Wall Street too big to fail bank. I mean, do you remember those? Those are the Bear Stearns and the Bank of Americas of the world, the ones that really set off the Great Recession of 2008. The second reason is that, and the more important reason, I should say, is that banks, the local banks and the broader economy has very little exposure to SVB. Having said that, it is still an important story because Silicon Valley Bank, as you guys just pointed out, is still the second largest bank failure in U.S. history. And then, of course, you have Signature Bank, which is the third largest failure in bank failure in U.S. history. So that is, drawing some concern at the moment.
Right. One thing, Reg, that I'm actually seeing that could be maybe applicable to our situation here in the Philippines is rising interest rates, of course, and lower bond yields. Will our local banks now, you think, have to review and go over their investment portfolios to check out whether or not their exposure to government bonds with dropping yields could, in fact, affect liquidity?
That's a question that we can't answer as yet. The thing with the global financial markets is everything is intricately connected to each other, right? Although, again, I will, go so far as to say that as of the moment, from as far as we know, none of the major banks here, whether that's BDO, that's BPI, Metrobank, they've all said they don't have direct exposure to Silicon Valley Bank. Now, do they have exposure to the bond markets that could potentially also be invested in Silicon Valley? Potentially, but again, that impact will be contained within the stock market, right? Within the shares. It's not expected to cross over to the broader economy. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that the Bankers Association of the Philippines, which is the organization, the trade body for the banks here, they issued a statement today saying that what's happening in the U.S. right now has no substantial or material impact on local lenders. They pointed out that the local lenders have ample liquidity, they have diversified deposit ratios, and they have good quality loans for the most part. So the BSP also seems to be on top of it. And then, of course, as you just reported, U.S. President Joe Biden has moved aggressively to assure the rest of the world that the crisis is contained, right? And they've gone to extraordinary measures to guarantee the deposits of Silicon Valley Bank. So, yes, there are tensions in the global financial markets right now. But if you're asking whether it means the banks here would need to reassess their lending strategies, or whether this could weaken their portfolios, or whether it could cause a bank run, at the moment, I have to say no. Sean?
All right, well, here's hoping that the Fed puts a stop to raising rates at least one more time. Thank you so much for that. One News business editor Regina Lay.
The big story will return. Keep it here in One News. You're still watching the big story here in One News.
Before we go, Metro Pacific Investments Corporation's integrated health and wellness app, MWell, has introduced another innovative feature to empower partner doctors to fully maximize digitalization in their professional practice. The company launched the new MWell MD app, a virtual clinic designed by doctors for doctors. Through the app, doctors can easily check scheduled consultations, manage medical records of their patients online, and provide medical services to the public without hassles. MPIC President, Chairman, and CEO Manny V. Pangilinan said they are committed to delivering innovative healthcare solutions, not only for MWell app users, but also for their partner doctors. The MWell MD app can be downloaded on Google Play Store and Apple's App Store.
And I think it will continue to grow based on latest indications. The doctors enrolled in the system also are growing. So the future looks bright for the app, and we look forward actually to be able to deliver healthcare services to a greater number of Filipinos.
And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World Online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more in-depth analysis. I'm Ed Lingao.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I am Sean Yao. Stay safe, Philippines.
We are all sides, all the time.